The Last of Us, Uncharted, Max Payne, Tomb Raider, and Pragmata. All of these games are big budget, AAA, linear, third-person story shooters. And yet, Pragmata is the only one of these games to have come out this decade. Some of you may not remember, but games like Pragmata in the early 2010s were a dime a dozen. These are only a few of the biggest games I mentioned, but there were hundreds of linear story-driven action games being released every single year during the Xbox 360 and PS3 days. And for some reason, slowly but surely, the game industry has gotten away from these games being the quote-unquote default game and instead opting for massive, open-world, non-linear games that take hundreds of hours to complete. Instead, Pragmata opts for a short, engaging, and fun linear adventure that's over in 10 hours. Pragmata respects your time, gives you engaging gameplay, and tells a heartfelt story that keeps you engaged for its runtime. And frankly, we need more games like Pragmata. So today, let's talk about Pragmata, all its systems, features, and gameplay, and why Pragmata is a masterpiece. Before we begin, if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and please consider subscribing to see more content like this. Now, let's jump in. Starting with the premise of the game, you play as Hugh Williams, a US Space Army guy sent to a moon base known as the Cradle to investigate loss of communications between the base and Earth. The Cradle is a mining and research base dedicated to researching a new material known as Luna Filament. This Luna Filament can essentially 3D print anything you could possibly want, including in some ways bioorganic life with striking realism. As soon as you get there, you realize that something is really wrong. No one is there to greet you, and you can't find anyone to speak to. Out of nowhere, a moonquake hits, killing your entire team. You come to find out that something has seriously gone wrong with the base AI, Edis, and that it's turned on all life on the base and is set to destroy everything. Edis controls these various bots that were previously harmless, but now are hellbent on destroying you. Unfortunately, your weapons don't really do a lot of damage to them on account of these robots being made out of this durable Luna Filament, but luckily, you meet this little robot android girl named Diana that can hack these robots and open them up for damage with your weapon. The rest of the game follows you, Hugh, and Diana fight through the base, figure out what went wrong, and how to stop Edis from wreaking more havoc. Pragmata's story is wildly simple, and yet it still somehow works so well. There's not a single NPC outside of Diana for you to interact with, and so the entire story predicates on meaningful dialogue with Diana. If Diana was annoying, like a lot of little kids tend to be in video games, Pragmata would have been a slog to sit through. If the voice acting was not done well, or if the dialogue itself was unnatural or fake, the game would severely suffer for it. But luckily, Pragmata has none of these issues. The interactions between Hugh and Diana feel genuine. This dynamic is not like Kratos and Atreus in God of War, or like Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us. Hugh and Diana like each other throughout the game, and don't really have much friction between them. It's a refreshing take on this dynamic that hasn't really been done in a game before. Also, without spoiling too much, I think the story beats are also really solid. The central mystery is entertaining enough throughout the runtime without being overly complex or deep. The game does a great job of pacing out the lore reveals and drops, and I found myself genuinely reading some of the codex entries to get a better understanding of what life was like here before the catastrophe. But to be honest, what I enjoy most about the story, and honestly just the game in general, is that it respects your time. Pragmata tells a simple yet compelling story with a clear beginning, middle, and satisfying end in just about 12 hours. The story isn't artificially dragged out through meaningless choices or side quests that don't reflect the theme of the game. It's short enough for Capcom to opt for a full mocap for every scene, making the characters feel alive. And that just goes such a long way when talking about a game like this that relies on its story so much as the catalyst of the game. In the big 2026, it is damn near impossible to find a AAA game that doesn't want to consume every minute of your being. Usually, you have to go to the indie or AA space for that, and for as great as those games can be, there's no denying that there are and always will be drawbacks to games with smaller budgets. Maybe the graphics aren't as good, or every scene isn't able to be fully mocapped, or the gameplay suffers, or the story feels rushed due to the lack of budget. But Pragmata features none of those compromises while still respecting your time, and that's damn respectable. Moving on to the vessel of the storytelling, the world, I think much of the principles I mentioned with the story apply here. There are 5 or so regions in the game, each mostly linear, guiding you through various areas of the moon base. There are a couple of offshoots here and there are occasional sections of non-linearity when you have to unlock a door by finding various terminals spread out across a small area. But even so, Pragmata follows the footsteps pretty identically to the plethora of games in this genre that came before it. What sets Pragmata apart from the games of old though, and even some newer games, is that Capcom's creativity with the world design is on full display here, and every region is a treat to explore through. We've all seen the famous New York level with Times Square being gorgeously recreated in the game, and many of us wondered how and why Times Square, New York is in a sci-fi game set on the moon. And the answer is Luna Filament. This in-game reason as to why a recreation of Times Square is in the game, or why there's sections of luscious greenery, or why there's a beach in the game, allows for Capcom to make these gorgeous set pieces without thinking too much as to why it exists in the first place. Even the locations that are clearly sci-fi moon-basey are so expertly done. Being that this is a linear game, Capcom was able to pack these areas chock full of hidden lore, environmental storytelling, and fun little secrets that wouldn't be possible had this game been an 80-hour behemoth of an open world. There are some really fun low-gravity sections where you're on the surface of the moon and you can clearly see Earth and the gigantic scale of what it is you're exploring. And there's also some really tense low light and claustrophobic sections where you're on the edge of your seat waiting for a robot to pop out at you. This variety is so expertly done, and done in a way as to not overwhelm you with too much variety or underwhelm you with too much sameness. And the cherry on top of all of this is that the game is simply put gorgeous. Pragmata is built on the RE engine, the same engine that Resident Evil uses, and let me tell you right now, the RE engine gives Unreal Engine 5 a run for its money in the graphics department while blowing it away in performance. Playing in 4K with DLSS set to performance and everything on Ultra including path tracing and ray reconstruction, I was hitting 80 FPS. Now granted, I am fortunate enough to have a top of the line machine, but to me, that is the definition of fantastic performance. Even just turning off ray reconstruction would have netted me 10 to 20% better performance, and for the game to look as good as it does and run as good as it does is a triumph. All in all, in terms of the world, I would say that this has been one of the more engrossing worlds I've gotten to experience from a game in this genre. Obviously, there are games like Crimson Desert and RDR2 out there that immerse you with sheer scale and beauty, but Pragmata's world has a charm all on its own. It's very unique. It's distinctly sci-fi, but includes fantastical elements in a way that makes sense. It's beautiful, has great variety, and is incredibly detailed. Exploring through the cradle, even in its desolate state, I was able to easily picture what life might have been like in its peak. The people around doing their research, the bots living in harmony helping the scientists out. Capcom did an amazing job of realizing the scope of this world beyond just the here and now. Moving on to maybe the most important aspect of the game, we have to talk about the gameplay. Now, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, Pragmata's gameplay works because of the simplistic beauty of the systems that come together to make it what it is. Now, look, maybe I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here. Coming from playing Crimson Desert, a gameplay system is going to feel a little simple simply because of the sheer amount of gameplay systems present in that game, but Pragmata has one goal in mind in terms of gameplay, and every system surrounding that goal is in service of that one goal, to provide a fun third-person hacking shooter experience. To get the basics out of the way, Pragmata's combat has two main parts. As Hugh, you're in charge of moving around the world, dodging, using your jetpack, etc., as well as direct combat. You have a service weapon that automatically replenishes ammo, and you have 3 other weapons with limited ammo that you find throughout the world. As Diana, your job is to hack your enemies. As you aim in as Hugh, a pop-up to the right will allow you to hack your enemies to open them up for damage. You did this using your face buttons on the controller, and you can pass through optional nodes that give you buffs or give the enemies debuffs. Enemies only stay open for a certain amount of time, so it's imperative that you're constantly hacking and multitasking to ensure you're able to do damage. This system is incredibly fun. This game forces you to multitask in a way that you're not often asked to do in games, especially high-octane games like this. Darting your eyes across the screen, checking your hack, furiously spamming the buttons on your controller, while also spamming the triggers shooting at the enemies, switching weapons, dodging while maintaining your hack. These are all things that I had to do in the game, and that forced me to multitask. Each weapon you interact with and each enemy type you face all provide great variety on how you want to get the job done and how you need to do it. The other thing that really jumped out to me was the difficulty in the game. I thought that the normal difficulty mode was perfectly balanced. For the most part, I was able to get through the levels just fine, but about once or so per level, maybe I would get lazy or lose my edge and either barely escape with my life or I would die. And since the game employs the bonfire system from a game like Dark Souls, that meant that I had to sometimes restart entire sections of the level. Now, it wasn't often at all, and when it happened, it was obviously very annoying, but it didn't feel like a Souls-like. When I died, it's because I did something wrong, not because the game itself was brutally tough. The bosses are also well done. At the end of every level, you fight a unique boss. They all had their weaknesses, their gimmicks, and their ways to defeat them, and every time it felt satisfying to do so. I did feel that the bosses were maybe a bit toned down in terms of difficulty compared to some sections of the levels that would throw multiple difficult enemies at you, but I enjoyed them nonetheless. The progression systems are also built around the one goal of making the combat as fun as possible. Whether it's with the upgrade nodes that allow you to increase your service weapon damage, your health, and Diana's hacking abilities, or the Luna filament system that basically acts as currency, allowing you to unlock and upgrade new weapons, hacking nodes, and mods, or whether it's with the stamp system that gives you fun new armor sets and lore about the enemies you're fighting to better prepare for them, or whether it's with the training modules that not only help you get better at the game, but provide you with upgrade components and Luna filament to speed up progression. None of the progression felt necessary. There were no level gated areas or enemies. You couldn't really be under leveled at any point in the game, but through natural exploration, completion of the training modules, and obviously killing hordes of enemies that drop Luna filament, I found myself with options on how I could build out my Hugh. If I wanted him to be a damage first beast, or a hacking focused multiplier stacker, or a special ability stacker, for a non-RPG, the build crafting, if you took the time to explore new areas and complete the training modules, was actually really fun. All in all, I think, unsurprisingly, the gameplay was probably the most fun aspect for me. That's not a knock on the world or story at all. Both are great in their own right, but I don't think I've ever had a game force me to multitask in such a real way before. It was absurdly satisfying clearing out a room of enemies because it felt like I had earned it, and the progression systems adding to that feeling of getting stronger and getting better and getting more confident with every encounter. If I had to describe Pragmata with one word that I think sums up the game, I would say unique. Pragmata so clearly borrows the tried and true linear, short, third-person action gameplay formula that has been around for decades at this point, but puts us in a setting that is beautiful and different and cool, gives us a gameplay system that forces you to think on your feet and multitask, and tells a story of a father figure and a kid without regurgitating the sad dad tropes that have been present in other games. I respect Pragmata so much. It's not my favorite game by any means, but it's fun, it's simple, it's short, and most importantly, it's a goddamn video game. Pragmata clearly stays in the boundaries of the genre with hundreds if not thousands of games in it. It doesn't try to reinvent the wheel or transcend the medium in any form. But what it does do is provide a brand new AAA IP, something that doesn't happen very often, that's genuinely creative, and provides a standalone experience to play through. And we need more games like that. Either way, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below your thoughts on Pragmata. I'm sure many of you have played through it already. I would love to hear what y'all have to say down in the comments below. Again, if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing to see more content like this. If you'd like to support me further, consider joining my Patreon or becoming a channel member here on YouTube. Yeah, guys, it's been CGG. I'm out.